I'm
Right.
saying welcome after 1 p.m., right?
Hey.
So before I get to this, and I know Anita just rushed me, she tells me, I think it was like a day ago, Betty, I need you to be the moderator. And I'm like, yeah, of course. On a Saturday, no problem. I'm one of the event anyway, you know. But Anita and I, she's just so cool, yo. Like, if you notice that I have a lot of love for her and stuff, and I play around with her, because that's the relationship we have. She once called me her brother, so that's exactly how I've been with her. Love her daughter, love her husband. They're just good people. So Anita, amazing event. Thank you.
Yes.
I can clap this out. All right. So I want to introduce the two gentlemen that we have here. So first we have JR. May I call you JR?
Sure.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
JR and also Akil. Give them a welcome. They're both financial specialists. JR, I'm gonna just a brief introduction about yourself.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is J.R. Dorsengo. I am a senior loan officer and contractor lending specialist with Community Capital New York. Community Capital is what's called a CDFI, which is a community development financial institution. We are a non-for-profit lender providing access to capital to primarily communities of color, low to moderate income communities. That certification, that CDFI certification is one that is provided to you by the Department of Treasury, specifically to provide these services in these communities. I am an entrepreneur at heart. Primarily, I was a business owner for 10 years on a retail business, so I approach lending from the perspective of a actual small business owner because that's where I came from actually. From there, I transitioned into the economic development space where I provided coaching and consulting for small businesses, and now I'm working on the lending side.
Thank you, JR. Akil?
So my name is Akil Williamson. I've been in banking for 19 years, working with 3 institutions. Funny thing is, this was one of them.
Great training.
basically, great training from this institution. So based on what I do is that I help small business owners in terms of navigating the landscape, in terms of how to manage their business from a financial standpoint, not just lending, but banking as a whole, and how they can basically become compliant, pretty much.
Thank you. And gentlemen, as from a lending perspective, what signifies to you when a business is ready for lending? We'll start with you.
So when we're evaluating a applicant who is seeking financing, there are a number of documents to ask. One of those documents is what's called a sources, right, and uses of funds, right? And so from the very beginning, you're already thinking about how am I going to, so in the title of this, I don't know if you guys saw the title for this particular workshop today, it has a capital stacking is part of the title, right? And so when you're thinking about how am I going to fund this business, that's what ultimately capital stacking is. You're thinking about what are the uses? What am I going to be utilizing this money for? So if I'm a startup, how much funds am I going to need in order to get this project from conception to where I'm opening up my doors? I told you guys I was a business owner. I owned a edible Wranglers franchise in Mount Vernon for 10 years. And when my partners and I were in the process of starting that business, we had to assess what the total needs were going to be to get that business open, to get the doors open. So the security deposit that we're gonna need for our landlord, right? The initial payroll to carry us for a certain amount of months before we started to really make money. Inventory, that sort of thing, right? Setting up our utilities, getting the place built out. So these are all the uses of funds. And then you're gonna figure out, okay, these are the things that I'm gonna need money for, well, where am I gonna get the money from? Okay, and so that capital stacking, that's really just a strategy for how you're going to layer various sources in order to ultimately fund this project. Now, those sources could be a number of things, right? They could be your own capital. That is still, by the way, the number one source for funding a small business. Your personal savings. A lot of people think this lending, no, it's personal savings. Friends and family comes next, right? So if you think about it, if you start to draw a circle for how I'm going to ultimately fund my business, the first part of that circle is going to be yourself, ultimately, right?
Right.
And friends and family is next. So you think about that, it's the people closest to you. You and the people closest to you are gonna help you get this project off the ground, which might need you to think about some of the challenges that we have in our community in terms of starting businesses. It is a fact that those are the number one resources, and if we don't have those resources available to us, you can see why we have certain challenges. Funding outside of that then comes next. So going to a bank, going to a CDFI, credit cards, other resources, and we can talk about those. But really, you're thinking about what are the uses of funds? What am I going to need to get this project off the ground? And then how much is that gonna cost? That's where you start thinking about how you're gonna fund it.
Perfect. Akil, just for the elements of time, I'm going to alternate between you. Is that okay?
That's fine.
What are potential red flags that you look for that would scare like a lender when you're looking at an application or an applicant?
Okay, so basically, in terms of red flags, it ties into how can we decide to lend to someone. The most important thing is that you should be able to pay the bank back. At the end of the day, the bank is not looking to become a partner in your business. They're looking to lend you money and in return get paid back for what they're lending to the clients. So it becomes risky when the client cannot pay, and most importantly, cannot define their business, how they're going to earn revenue in order to actually pay the bank back for the money that's being lent. In addition to that, banks also have equations that they do, debt service coverage, thank you. Banks typically have debt service coverage, so pretty much most institutions require 1.2 to every dollar, so basically you need about $1.20 of assets in order to, for every dollar of debt that you're taking out. So if you're pretty much not able to cover that, then most times the answer is going to be no. Otherwise, they look for other means by being able to go an SBA or maybe, going to other services that might be able to provide you. But the most important thing is that you are able to pay the lender back their money. That's the primary thing.
One huge red flag, I would think, and they can concur. I had a client that said, "Benny, I need a loan." I was like, "Sure, how much do you need?" "As much as they can give me."
That's right.
That is a big one. I gotta touch on that one because I get that so much. It's a huge red flag, and you guys gotta understand something, right? You really have to be mindful how you're having these conversations, because if those words come out of your mouth, right, when you're speaking to a lender, you've already planted a seed in the back of my mind, and I'm thinking, oh, okay, this may not be someone that I want to fund, because what that is essentially saying, right, is I don't really know what I'm doing in this business. Because if you knew what you were doing, you would know exactly how much you need.
That's right.
So when you don't know, and when you say as much as you can give me, or if you say I don't know how much I need right now. Now, because we are a CDFI, we are a non-for-profit, I try to take a particular approach where I say, okay, let's do some exercises and figure this thing out. But you're not gonna get that at certain institutions, right? They'll just deny you, okay? So be very, very careful how you're having these conversations.
What financial systems or habits do you look for in terms of, for them to be in place when someone's applying for funding? Want to take it?
Basically, towards what someone asked earlier, there's three important things I would say that every business owner needs: a banker, a lawyer, and an accountant. And basically, it's important to actually have a relationship with your accountant, because when it comes to lending, regardless of whatever the bank's criteria is, and for whatever tier of lending that they offer, they want to make sure that you are ready to lend to. So basically, you have your tax returns, you have both business and personal, usually about 2 to 3 years, that you have your P&L, your balance sheet. When those things you have them on hand and you're ready to give it to a lender, they look at you as a credible candidate, because then they're looking at, okay, this person actually takes their business serious. So if they're taking their business serious, we can actually look at and take them seriously. Now, that tends to be where the hiccups are, because what tends to happen, and in particular with our demographic, is that we like to have the cake and eat it too, which is make money, not report it, end up on with negative tax returns, come and go, hey, I got a bunch of money in the bank, can you lend to me? No. What do you mean? based on what your tax return says, anything that's loaned to you, you can't pay it back, you know? And at the end of the day, you have to realize that do not take the short-term strategy in order to hurt you in the long term.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of times it's, okay, I won't pay my taxes now, and when the bank starts running through numbers, like some doesn't add up, right? So I'm not gonna pay my taxes now, but then in a few years, there's opportunity for, hey, maybe I can buy a building, and this building can actually increase my revenue 3, 4, 5 times, you know? And instead of being able to actually make that purchase, no one can lend to you because what you're presenting doesn't fit what you're asking for.
What do you typically see missing when it comes to applications?
Well, we just touched upon two of the biggest ones, right? And to echo what Akil just said, those financials are typically missing. A lot of small business owners are not making the necessary investment in accounting, bookkeeping, right? Having those financial records available to you. And so that's something that I find is typically missing, right? And then that understanding of those needs is missing often, right? But they're one and the same. Like, that problem comes from the fact that we're not properly engaging in good financial practices, financial management practices. And that starts with having a very good understanding of financial record keeping. That bookkeeping is very important. And keeping those financial statements organized, your P&Ls, your balance sheets, your statement of cash flows, that's going to be a benefit to you. It's not to the benefit of the lender, right? We're gonna need that information in order to make our decision, but that information is actually valuable to you. Having that information organized is important to you as a business owner. As you're making financial decisions in your business, well, what's the basis for making those financial decisions? What have you been analyzing in order to determine that this is a good thing to do, right? You would have been looking at your numbers, and those numbers would have been accumulated via proper bookkeeping, right? Making sure those transactions that come into your bank account are organized in a proper way, so that when it's time to determine, hey, I'm looking to expand my business, or I'm looking to buy a next piece of equipment, that information is readily available to you in order to assess whether or not this is going to be a good decision. So having that information available is vital, and oftentimes people are missing it. And so what we do is we manage our businesses based on intuition and not based on like facts, right?
Right. Thank you.
Can I piggyback on?
Yeah, of course, go right
So
ahead.
just to also piggyback on JR for a second, one of the things that's happening now as well is that because a lot of financial institutions and the fintechs have put in basically streamlined lending, which is where clients can come in, bring in bank statements, and you know they can use that as a way of giving them quick lending. Clients think that, or individual business owners think that, okay, you know what, I can just use this strategy and go ahead and take advantage of whatever it is that I need to do. Now, that does have a role to play, and that's actually, it's a nice vehicle to have, but it's most important that you yourself are prepared in order to meet the representative, whether it's a banker or CDFI, with all your financial information, so that in that way they can direct you as far as which way to go. It's almost like walking into the doctor's office, looking at WebMD and going, yeah, I have this bump on my arm. Yeah, I definitely have cancer. Like, it's up to the doctor to look, ask the questions, go through the whole process and say, you know what, you don't have cancer, this is what you have, or you know what, this may require us to take a deeper look, this may require us to take these strategies, whatever it is. And you have to understand that the people who you're working with, you should look at them as your partners in terms of that they're there to help. They're not there in order to hinder you or interrogate you. They're just trying to figure out, how can I best help you? And time is valuable, so they're asking these questions to understand, can I actually help you? And we can move forward, or you know what, I can't, or no one can. So this is probably, you gotta go back to the drawing board. And it's the truth.
That's the truth. That's right.
It's the truth.
That's right.
No one can help
You,
you.
as you can see, they have a lot of optimism there. So you mentioned capital stacking. When is it a beneficial and advisable strategy, and when is it a risky one?
So we're always capital stacking, believe it or not, right? When you think about it, we're starting our businesses. So I'm going back to the balance sheet, right? Because I don't want to put the cart before the horse, right? I'm going back to the balance sheet. If you ever looked at a balance sheet equation, it's assets equal liabilities plus equity, right? The assets, that's the use of funds. The liability and equity side, that's the source of funds, okay? And so from the very beginning, we are already capital stacking. So you're thinking about how am I gonna fund this business? I might already have some money available to me, and I'm going to a bank to borrow that money. I'm already capital stacking, right? I have equity, maybe $10,000. Let's say the total project is $100,000. I have $10,000 that I'm bringing to the table. I need $90,000. I'm going to the bank to borrow that $90,000. I'm capital stacking, right? It's already happening. And so what we want to do though is we want to think about it in a strategic sense, right? In terms of what is going to be the best approach to access various capital sources in order to get this project to the point where I'm opening it. So imagine I'm opening a bakery. I have equipment in that bakery. I might have an oven. I might have racks. I might have all sorts of items that I need. It may be that the oven and those items, the refrigeration system, that might be a lease. That money might not come from the bank. You might never see that money actually, right? Because the company that sells it might be able to provide you financing terms via a lease, right? Or they might be able to finance it for you outright if you're actually purchasing it. And so that's capital stacking as well. That might be more beneficial to you than to go to the bank and try to borrow the whole thing. So part of it is thinking through these things, thinking through those needs, identifying what the sources are out there to address those needs, and then properly applying it across the board based on what your needs are. So we're always capital stacking, and then we're thinking also about, so that's at the startup. We're also thinking about continuing operations. So it may be that I need working capital, right?
Line of credit.
Yeah,
Or
so
a
line of
of
credit,
yeah.
Potentially credit cards might come into play for short term. So part of it is, okay, thinking about it strategically in the sense of certain needs require certain types of financing. So short-term needs, right, where if I'm buying inventory and I expect to turn that over in, let's say, 30 to 60 days, that might be better suited to a line of credit or potentially a credit card, right? That might be vendor credit, right? Yeah, and so if I'm buying, for example, equipment, I don't want to take out an MCA loan to buy equipment because that equipment is expected to last maybe 5 to 10 years in terms of its useful life. If I use an MCA loan to buy that piece of equipment and I'm paying 244%, which I have seen, right? I'm screwing myself, right? So part of it is understanding, and just because capital is accessible to you doesn't mean you should be using it. Because again, I have seen people get into trouble and they think, well, I'm gonna go get the MCA loan because they can turn it around like that. All right, well, you're now that MCA loan, there is a place for it in the marketplace. I tend not to like them because I see how much people get into trouble utilizing them. But you can make an argument that there's a place for it in the marketplace, but that is expected to be very short-term financing. 244% is not meant to last a year or two. That's meant to be in and out. Right? I've seen people get stuck in them and then are trying to refinance it 2 years later. They're paying 244. No, they're gonna go down, they're going down. The weight of that debt is gonna take them out, right? And so I don't wanna be using MCA for equipment. I don't wanna be using MCA for long-term expansion plans and that sort of thing. So part of it is understanding what I'm trying to do and then identifying the right resource in order to do it.
And folks, for those that don't know, an MCA is a merchant cash advance. That's what that is. So be careful with those for sure. So for entrepreneurs, like what should they think about when using multiple funding options or sources? What are some of the things that they should think about? I know that he touched on some of them now, but just wondering, like, is there anything else that you would add to that?
Definitely that you're able to repay it. Like that.
It's very important.
I'm serious, because if you're not able to repay it, you're actually putting your business in jeopardy.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing you have to look at. In addition, there are 5 C's of credit that everyone should basically keep in mind. I may miss one, but it's capital, conditions, collateral, maybe 2. Collateral, character, and capacity. Thank you. So basically, the bank is looking at you as a person, or the institution is looking at you as a person. Are you a credible person? Can we trust you to actually repay the loan? Which part of that, they're gonna look at your personal credit in order to identify, okay, this person can actually repay. The second thing that they wanna look at is the conditions that they're lending to you. So the collateral that will be there, the capacity, as in, do you have the capacity to pay it? And,
You talk about collateral.
yeah. So.
Character.
Character. So.
You as an individual.
Yeah. So nonetheless, in terms of the stacking standpoint, you wanna make sure whatever it is that you are, as JR said, whatever it is that you're using the funds for aligns. So one of the biggest misconceptions that people end up having when they come is go, hey, I wanna buy a truck, give me a line of credit. For any financial institution, that starts disturbing them. Yes, because that does not align with the need, the product that you're asking for does not align with the need of the,
Lack of the line of credit.
correct. So a line of credit is designed for, okay, I have, I'm a consulting business. I am expecting receivables on this project is gonna pay me in 60 days. So I need to cover the cost of this project before, I get paid. So I get a line of credit, I cover the project, I am paid, I pay back the line of credit. I have access to the line of credit again, and I have my payment from the project. I can move on to the next project. That's what a line of credit is for. It's not for, because you're gonna have to have employees and whoever else. It's not for, oh, this truck costs $80,000, right? I'm gonna get a line of credit because the payment is smaller, and I'm gonna pay the truck the $80,000, and then, which I'll own the truck, and now I'm just gonna pay the interest. As you're paying the line of credit, just paying the interest, all you're doing is just paying the interest. So that $80,000 is sitting there, and even though you have a smaller payment, you're actually using the wrong source in order to grow your business, because you're actually hurting your business in that standpoint. So you have to make sure that, okay, I have a line of credit, I have receivables, my line of credit is there for that. I have equipment or items that I need to purchase, my loan is there for that. I need to make quick purchases, or maybe even extend my cash flow period, which is very important to institutions, the fact that you have cash flow, to extend my cash flow period. Now, you know what? Instead of paying my electric bill, for example, out of my checking account, maybe I will pay my credit card where I can get points from it, and then I'll turn around and I will use my checking account the following month, pay it off, I'll get points for it, and then at the same time, I extend my cash flow by doing something like that. So that's ways in which you can actually capital stack correctly and actually use institutions' funds correctly in order to grow your business, as opposed to, okay, I'm going to borrow money, I can't pay it back, or I don't think I have the ability to pay it back, and now I'm hurting my business. I'm actually putting my business in jeopardy.
Or it doesn't match the need. Got it. Regarding credit, how much debt is too much debt? Or what would be the point? My short answer is, what you cannot pay and something that's accumulated in interest and payments, but just wondering.
That is actually, it's the bottom line. I don't know if there's an amount of debt that's too much debt, to be quite honest with you. Ultimately, that debt service coverage is what's important. Your ability to pay down that debt, right, is what's important, is what's most important. And so you're going to borrow what you need in order to get what you need to get done, right? And I know people that have out millions upon millions of dollars of debt, but there's a reason, there's a business case for it, right? So the short answer is, what's too much is when you can't pay it back. If you can't pay it back, you borrow too much. So that might be $1,000, depending on the business that you have, right? So if that monthly payment is XYZ amount, and you can't generate enough cash flow in order to pay it back, then you borrow too much, even though it's $1,000. But I know people that have out hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, and have no problem paying it back every month, because their business can support it, right? So that's the short answer.
Perfect.
I was gonna say another answer is when you're using that to finance your personal life. So
wow. These things happen.
There is a way to do that. So one of the things that we teach, for example, with the capital access cohort that we have is it's okay to use it to pay the things that you're gonna pay off the next month without interest touching you. So if you can make the payment in full, it's fine, because you could build the points like someone had said earlier, you're good. But what he's saying is normally people use it for everything, they never get to pay it down.
It's used for things like this. I'm gonna take this capital, buy myself a Mercedes and, you know, other nice fancy things to wear, and I'm gonna watch my business that needs a new machine or a new awning or something, you know, or fix the floors or something else, in the store, the office, or whatever, wherever, and I'm gonna watch it deteriorate because I'm like, okay, customers still come in, but, you know, I don't really need to fix this. So that's probably also a point where you're
The other term in the title for this workshop was responsible financing. And so that would be an example of irresponsible financing. Okay.
If everyone in this room could take one thing, one aspect that they can improve, which one would you recommend? Which one would you recommend?
It's hard to recommend one because there are so many elements of this that I think we need to practice as small business owners. But if I had to harp on one thing, it is really that I would say get educated around what these financial statements really mean, right? Start there. At least get a sound basic. I'm not asking you to be an accounting expert. You don't have to be an expert in accounting. But I need you to understand what a P&L is. Beyond, see, we know it intuitively, right? If I selling bottles of water, like the guys on the street selling water bottles, right? Remember, I think we're still doing that these days, right? But back in the days, we used to do this a lot. Like the kids would be out selling candy or bottles of water. Intuitively, I know that I have to make more from this than I paid for it. I know that intuitively. But do I know about gross profit margins, right? Do I know about cost of goods sold, right? Do I know that about cash flow and debt service? So I need you guys to get educated around some of these fundamental elements of sound financial management, right? Because then, once you learn that, then you understand the importance of bookkeeping. You understand why bookkeeping is something that you should be doing in the very beginning. And when we talk about that sources and uses of capital, that should be one of the line items. How much do I need to pay a good accountant on an annual basis? How much do I need to pay a good bookkeeper on a monthly basis? If my business can't generate enough for me to do that, then I shouldn't get into that business. Because this business cannot support the cost of its operations. If I can't pay, so many people go, oh, that's too expensive. Don't be a business then, you know what I mean? If it's too expensive, that means you are not generating enough to support this vital service, this vital component of running your business. So you should not be in business if you can't afford to pay a bookkeeper and an accountant. That's really what that means. So if you're operating without those services, you are doing yourself a disservice. And you're not doing as well as you think you are. Because I promise you, Chase has a whole accounting department. That's all they do every day. They come in and they just do accounting. They have accounts payable clerks who only focus on accounts payable. They have accounts receivable clerks who only, and those are just individual components of accounting, right? But they have people to just focus on those things because it's that important. And yet, we don't do it as small businesses. And it's absolutely vital. So if I had to leave you with one thing is, get honed in on that first, and then it's gonna lead to all of these other things we're talking about.
Anita, do we have time for one more question? Huh?
One more.
One more. All right, so do you see a difference between businesses that borrow to grow as opposed to those that are struggling to pay back the capital that they have borrowed?
Definitely. And the biggest reason why is because when they're borrowing to grow, it's intentional. So those clients tend to be the individuals that have the accountant, have the banker, have the lawyer, documents are prepared. You call them, you say, hey, I need this. They just direct you to the accountant, and the accountant forwards you everything because their mindset was already on, I know I need this in order to get to where I'm going next. The businesses that are typically struggling to survive, it's usually a matter of, I'd say like this, look at it from a personal standpoint. If you are financially savvy and you're learning the principles and techniques that you need in order to, get this job, save up to get this car, this house, in order to buy more property and do whatever else is needed in order to, grow your personal wealth, that person is going to be in one box as opposed to, hey, you know what? I got my paycheck, these are all my debts, I can't meet it, and I'm just waiting to get to the next paycheck. If that's what's going on, then that's the business that's just looking to survive. And when they're borrowing, the likelihood is that they're gonna borrow, they'll get it, and they're just gonna get past that next hurdle into another hurdle at some point down the road. So that's why, again, it's very important that, as JR said, and as we both discussed, you have your team, the lawyer, accountant, banker, people that you can trust, so that way, you know what? Even if you are surviving, I've survived, now how do I get past this plan of surviving to actually succeeding? And then they will end up saying, you know what, maybe you drop this, maybe you move this, maybe you know, and this way you can look at a strategy in order to build, in order to survive. Let's not get survive, in order to grow.
And if I could add one more thing to that, right? You should be able to draw a direct line between the debt that you're taking on and the economic benefit that you're going to get as a result of taking on that debt, right? So I'm buying a car, we often hear how cars are a depreciating asset, but I had a business where I made deliveries. If I'm buying a car, that car is not just a car, it's a piece of equipment, right? It's just like my refrigeration system, it's just like my stove and other in the back, right? I'm buying that car because it's allowing me to make these deliveries. By making these deliveries, I'm able to increase my capacity to reach customers, right? I'm able to generate revenues. Those revenues are sufficient enough to cover operating expenses of that vehicle, and they're sufficient enough to not cover the debt that I took on to acquire the vehicle. I should be able to draw that line, and if I can't see that at the end of it, then I shouldn't borrow, right? I shouldn't borrow. You're borrowing for growth, you're borrowing to improve efficiencies. If you're borrowing to make up past shortfalls, that's an immediate red flag, right? I fell short before, and I don't see how I'm gonna make up that difference, so I'm gonna borrow in order to make up that difference. That's a red flag, right? Because you have a business that's potentially not going to be able to actually support itself, let alone debt. So if that's what I'm doing, I probably shouldn't be in business. But so many of us go and do that. We have something that's failing, so we throw money at it, right? That's bad money, right? That's bad money. Like, that's dumb money. When we're talking about investing, I'm throwing money at a problem that really there's no resolution. I haven't solved the problem, I'm just throwing money at it. That's a terrible use of debt, right? That should only be used for growth and development, okay?
May I ask if anyone has questions? We have time for a couple of questions. No?
She said we have to.
Huh?
The host said we have to.
Oh, we got a wrap? Oh, my bad, folks. Y'all can tweet me write a brother, we got you. But yeah, you can write the questions. Folks, give it up for them, please.
Thank you. So, thank you. Like, share, follow at 11-375 if you're not already following. But I want to thank you. I want to thank our host, Tanisha Chase. I want to thank you. I know it's a nice day, but we gotta get out of here. So I know that some of you did not officially register with me, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. But I want to have you, if you did not use the Chase, because I want to come back to this space, friends and family. So please just oblige, scan the QR code. They're not taking your blood type. But I'm going to be very brief. I want to say thank you for making my dreams come true today. I know someone will leave, but I have a little work I have to do. As I told you, I am a new business advisor for the Black in Business for Goldman Sachs, and that's a total new role for me. I want to also say that everything that I asked for, right, everything that I